Welcome to Cybersecurity Today. This is the week in review for the week ending Friday, May 26th, 2024. Coming up with me will be Treasury Board Minister Anita Anand, who's going to talk about the federal government's new cybersecurity strategy for the federal level IT departments. I need to apologize for some of the audio. We caught the minister at an event, so the sound wasn't ideal. This week, the Government of Canada released the first cybersecurity strategy for administrators of federal IT networks. And with me here to discuss the strategy is Treasury Board President and member of the Cabinet, Anita Anand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here today.
For those who don't know, Treasury Board is not the department that holds Canadians' tax money. It's the department that oversees federal spending and setting policies, including setting the strategic cybersecurity direction of all federal IT systems. The job of running and securing federal IT departments is in the hands of Shared Services Canada, which provides shared email, data center, and telecom services to most departments. And with the help of the advice of the Defense Department's Canadian Security Establishment. And Ms. Anand is the former Minister of Defense, so she knows a bit about the strategic and practical side of cybersecurity. Minister, first tell us a bit about the new strategic plan.
This is the first ever across government cyber security strategy. It responds to a changing global threat environment where we are seeing state and non-state actors exact cyber attacks on governments and businesses. And so we are fully cognizant of this strategic environment, but by the same token, we need to fortify our cybersecurity, and that is exactly what this cyber strategy responds to.
As I understand it, there's a ways to go because many of the parts for implementing the strategy haven't been created yet by Treasury Board, Shared Services Canada, or the Cyber Center. Like, for example, modernizing an enterprise-wide identity, credential, and access management.
Work that we are doing with this strategy, $11 million in budget 2024, builds on existing cybersecurity infrastructure from the Communications Security Establishment and from Shared Services Canada. What is different this time is that we see different departments with cybersecurity at different levels of maturity. And we want everyone to be on the same footing. We want a unified approach. And so this government cybersecurity strategy does exactly that. And it will not only conduct a risk analysis of differing cybersecurity systems, but it will also help train a new workforce to prevent cyber attacks. It will also strengthen capabilities and resilience across the Government of Canada to proactively prepare for cyber attacks. We are seeing businesses across our country being attacked from different types of actors, and the Government of Canada is no different. We all need to be fortified. That means mitigating your systems from future attacks, but also making sure that we are all on the same footing. So that's what this strategy seeks to do. It brings into play about 100 or more government departments and agencies. And so this is massive, and it's important, and it's going to change the way we address cyber security in the government.
The government's been in power for 8.5 years. Why is this announcement being made now?
As I mentioned, there are already in place significant infrastructure for the protection of cyberspace and data. And the Communications Security Establishment, run as part of the Minister of National Defense's portfolio. I used to be in that portfolio for about 2 years. And so I know well how much work the CSE does across government to fortify and strengthen our systems against cyber attacks. But we also know that the cyber landscape is changing. The global strategic environment is changing. The types of warfare that we are seeing also include cyberspace. That is the way in which we are being responsive to the current threat environment while also relying on existing cyber protections from the CSE and Shared Services Canada.
There have been big cyber attacks this year against Global Affairs, the RCMP, and FinTrack. Did these attacks play a role in the decision to release this strategy now?
This strategy has been in the work 4 months. I've been working on it since becoming the president of the Treasury Board last summer. The area of cybersecurity is one that I take extremely seriously given my time at the Department of National Defense. And indeed, since 2010, we have had a national cybersecurity strategy anyway. So what we are doing with this announcement today and this strategy is to say, look, we know that there are varying levels of cyber maturity across departments and agencies within our government. We know that a unified approach would be more effective, would improve cyber maturity. And so we want to be able to effectively identify and respond to new and emerging threats, and doing it with a unified approach makes the most sense.
How would you describe the state of readiness of government IT systems to face cyber attacks?
We know that we have the cybersecurity concerns that are underpinning the announcement of our cybersecurity strategy. In terms of the overall systems, which I think your question is getting to, we are replacing legacy systems at the current time in immigration, in employment, and social development services. And there are some tools that are outdated, that inadequately protect information, and they require attention, as does addressing the cybersecurity space. And one of the amazing things about being at Treasury Board is that it is a central agency which operates across government, which ensures that we have the maximum amount of coordination, whether it's on replacing legacy systems, whether it's on cybersecurity, whether it's on the protection of personal information, whether it's on the use of generative AI. Those are all spaces that Treasury Board occupies in government and continues to play a central role, as I said, in the digital space.
According to Treasury Board measurements, departments and agencies in the past 2 years have made only marginal progress in improving their cybersecurity maturity. Why?
Exactly. Because each individual department is responsible for its own cyber. And what this announcement is saying is that an individual siloed approach to cybersecurity is less effective than a unified level playing field for all departments and agencies. As I said, this is going to be over 100 departments and agencies combined, and it's going to allow for comprehensive awareness of the cybersecurity risk environment. It's also going to allow us to strengthen capabilities and resilience across the Government of Canada to proactively prepare for and respond to and recover from cybersecurity events. At the same time, we're going to attract a diverse workforce with the right cybersecurity skills and knowledge. And part of the way in which we're doing that is we're setting up a training center for cyber skills that will operate out of Treasury Board, so that we not only bring in new talent, but we allow employees to retool and reskill.
So was this a matter of departments having too much freedom in running their IT systems?
I would say that with the changing threat environment in the area of cyberspace in particular, we saw that there were challenges in terms of individual maturity levels in different departments. So more sophisticated departments in the area of threat responsiveness were able to respond more readily than others. And we want to make sure that we're protecting the information of Canadians. We want to protect our systems. We want to maintain a fully functional government despite the risk of a cyber attack. How do you accomplish all of those things? You have a unified whole of government cybersecurity strategy. And that's exactly what I put on the table today.
As I mentioned at the top, cybersecurity at the federal level covers a number of departments. Treasury Board sets the strategy. Shared Services Canada, which reports to the Minister of Public Safety, runs the IT networks. The Canadian Security Establishment, which reports to the Defense Department, provides advice. The Minister of Public Safety is responsible for the new cybersecurity legislation going now through Parliament. The Ministry of Innovation is looking after the proposed overhaul of federal privacy legislation. Does this multi-headed horse impair the effectiveness of federal cybersecurity efforts?
I don't agree that it is a multi-headed horse. In any complex institution, there is the need to have individual areas of responsibility. But what Treasury Board brings to the table is that as a central agency, we play a coordinating function. We put forward the policies and directives that individual public servants, departments, and agencies follow. It makes sense, therefore, that our cybersecurity strategy for the government is run out of the Treasury Board Secretariat because we are that coordinating body. So there isn't a multi-headed horse. It's actually very systematic and streamlined with the authority for this strategy running out of Treasury Board.
Where's the implementation plan for the strategy with targets and deadlines?
We actually do have a timelines in the strategy. It's the logic model, and we've broken down the work plan into various year periods, 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years. You would be able to see this strategy. Let me give you an example. In the short term, the 0 to 2 year time frame, we will be identifying credential access management, protecting credential multifactorial and essentially assessing cyber maturity. In the 2 to 5 year time frame, we'll be establishing enterprise vulnerability management programs. In other words, addressing vulnerabilities across governments and across government departments. And the entire time will be focused on mitigating and strengthening cybersecurity systems.
So how much money has been set aside in federal budgets to implement this strategy?
So Budget 2024 put forward $11.1 million for us to utilize towards this strategy. And the one point that I wanted to mention in addition to what we'll be rolling out is what we're referring to as the purple team approach. And that is going to be simulation of cyber attacks with a red team which simulates attacks and a blue team which assesses defenses. Now that might seem somewhat game oriented, but in this business where we need to ensure that our systems are fortified against cyber attacks, we need to be able to identify gaps and improve security measures. And so the purple team approach is going to allow us to actually foresee what types of cyber attacks we might experience and to ensure that our systems can withstand them. And as I said, on top of this, we'll be establishing a center of excellence for security testing. And that is also going to go some measure to improving the existing systems that we have in place.
The plan talks about establishing security operations centers. Is this a matter of the government centralizing cybersecurity?
Yes, we need to make sure that we are operating all of these different facets of our plan from the Treasury Board, and having this center being housed here at OCIO, which operates out of the department at Treasury Board, will allow us to do the type of purple team security testing that I just referred to. In addition, we are going to work with shared services and the communication security establishment to create a government-wide vulnerability management program for this coordinated vulnerability disclosure process. It's going to focus on people, it's going to focus on processes and policies as well as technology. Look, when I was in defense, I saw many times different actors in the private and public sectors across our country being subject to cyber attacks. And I know that it's extremely important for there to be coordination in institutions to be able to respond to these types of attacks. And that's exactly what I am bringing to Treasury Board in terms of the announcement today.
How long will it take to set up that vulnerability management program?
As I said, we have timelines and deliverables in the 0 to 2 year time frame and in the 2 to 5 year time frame, and then in the long term. And we are looking at that vulnerability management system being set up within the short to medium term.
Will the federal government lead by example and publicly share detailed lessons with the public on what it's learned from its own major cyber attacks and incidents?
That's a very good question, and one that I hope to be able to respond to more fully. I do believe in sharing best practices and lessons learned. And so I will be ensuring that we are able to share some information along those lines. At the same time, we do need to protect our own systems from cyber attacks. So we won't want to give away all of our techniques for doing so, but it is important to share lessons learned. Annual reports and KPIs
Minister,
are going to be part of the analysis as well.
Sorry. Minister, what keeps you up at night when you're thinking about the government's cybersecurity?
I worry about cyber attacks that are able to shut down government departments and prevent the delivery of services to Canadians. I want to make sure that does not happen. Therefore, a coordinated, unified approach, cybersecurity, is extremely important for Canadians, for the protection of their services as well as their information.
Okay. The government has a lot on its plate for implementing this plan, which is going to stretch perhaps as long as 10 years. Minister, thanks very much for being with us this week.
Thank you very much. Take good care.
Okay. That's it for this special podcast of Cybersecurity Today. A detailed story on the Canadian government's new strategy for federal IT networks is on technewsday.com. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or add us to your flash briefing on your smart speaker. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. I'm Howard Solomon.